So today we're going to be designing everyone's favorite quarantine app. That's right, TikTok. Is anyone else out there having trouble with their hair? We're going to try to design TikTok from the ground up. I'm going to focus on the For You page. Okay, so if you don't know what TikTok is yet, it's basically a content consumption machine. It's just videos and videos and videos. But anyway, we're gonna design the app from scratch. So I've got Figma up. I've prepared a few things to make the design process a little faster. As a product slash experience designer, I just want you guys to understand that this is not the way to build an app. It is, however, a way that you can use to create user interfaces or just, explore for yourself. My main intention is to teach you how to use Figma. So if you're a beginner, get ready to learn. So I've broken up the design process into 4 different stages. The first one is finding references. It's pretty easy to find references for TikTok. Just Google, just take your own screenshots, anything, up to you. The second stage is to create the identity. So that means finding the icons, getting the colors, getting the fonts, creating any effects that are used widely throughout the app, such as shadows, for example. And then after that, once you have the identity, you can use those as building blocks to create the design system. And that means creating common components like buttons or the navigation bar or just any common component that shows up in multiple areas of the app. And then once we have all those components, we can put it together and then you'll see how everything comes together and creates our screen. So I'm going to use the For You page as our main example. If we have time, we'll go into others, but we'll just see how long this one takes. As you can see, I already have references. Now I took this off of Google. We have the For You page, we have the Discover page, and we have the profile page as a reference. So now that we have our references, the first thing that we want to do, or the first thing that I did, was to capture all the icons. Now all these icons, you can find similar ones online. I personally used a plugin called Iconify. So from here you can search any icon, so a heart, for example. I actually used the heart from this plugin, from this Figma plugin, and then as you can see, it's already here in my design system. You just drag it in. You may need to resize it. This one, for example, is just way too big. So if I bring up the Figma interface, you click Command Dash, and here you can resize the icon. So I like to keep everything at 24 pixels. And as you can see, we already have ours, so there really is no need to, whoops. Make sure you resize the frame and not the actual shape. So yeah, 24 pixels. As you can see, we already have the icon. I've already renamed it, so I don't need this one anymore, so I'm just gonna delete it. But yeah, so I found icons for every single need or every single icon that shows up in the app. There are a few that are not available. Now, if you download this this file, you'll have access to these icons. But I had to create these ones from scratch. But yeah. Well, now that we have all the icons for the For You page, the next thing is to get the colors. Now, to get the colors is quite simple. If you already have a reference, you can just go to the screen and use an eyedropper tool. So I pressed R to create a shape. Now I press I to bring up this eyedropper tool, and all I have to do is click in this box or this reference image, and we already have the color for this TikTok red. So yeah, I just repeated that process for all the other colors, and I was able to come up with these 6 colors. Now, when you have colors or when you're using Figma, it's a good practice to create styles out of all your things. So for example, I've already created a color style for this gray, it's gray dark. There's a color style for this light gray, it's gray white. There's a color style for this black, it's black, and this is white. And for the blue and for the red, I've left it out for now so that I can walk you through how to set up this color style. So to set up the color style, you go to your right hand panel and you'll see this fill. You just click on this icon here, and then you can add a new color style. So create color style. I'm gonna name this one TikTok blue. Oops. And again, we have this red that doesn't have a color style yet, so I can just add that. So we're gonna call this one TikTok red. Okay, so now that we have all our color styles for our colors, we can go on to fonts. So the real fonts for TikTok, they're actually using Proxima. That's a paid font, which I don't have access to, and so I've substituted it with Railway and Railway Medium. The method that I use to capture these fonts is I basically just did a trial and error and tried to see which font would fit best. So what we came up with for this one, for example, was we have Railway. It's the semi-bold, so I kept changing between bold and medium, and eventually semi-bold is the one that worked. And then the font, you do the same thing. You keep changing it until it fits, or until you think it fits, and then yeah, that's how you get the font. So again, with fonts, it's a good idea to make font styles, and the method to do that is the same as creating color styles. So you have this text in your right hand panel. You just click the 4 dots on the right side, and then you can start creating color styles. So I'm going to name this one body/title. Oh yeah, so this slash lets you group things into different groups. So yeah, so we're going to call this whole like description area the body. So yeah, we have body title. So now, as you can see, it's in my text styles. And then this is actually the song description. So we're gonna call this one body dash description. So now you can see that there's a text style for the body title, there's a text style for the description, and they're grouped together. Now this discover is actually for the buttons, so we're gonna give this one another grouping. We're gonna call it button slash I guess nav, because this is located on the nav bar. And as you can see now, there are 2 groups on the side. There's a group for body and there's a group for button. So I'm just gonna keep doing this for all these other styles. Okay, so now we have all our font styles. The next thing that shows up is these effects. Now in Figma, you can also set effect styles. So there is actually a slight shadow on these, on this text and on this heart. So by default, when you try to create a shadow, actually we'll do this from scratch. So you make your shape. If you click effect, if you click effect, the first thing to show up is the shadow. I think TikTok is using 1 blur and offset by 1 to 1. I've given this a bit more of a gradient though, so it's 40% shadow. Yeah, and then all we have to do to add that is click this 4 dot icon and just add it to our effect. So we're gonna call this the sidebar shadow. Okay, so we're just, yeah. So now we have our shadow in our styles. Now, as you can see, all our local styles are stored on the side. So you can see every single style that you have. So we have our text style, we have our color style, and we have our effect styles. So for identity, that's all the styles. Now for the icons, I didn't actually symbolize them. I wanted to do something a bit different with them. So with all these icons, you can actually, when I design, I like to keep things organized or keep my components organized. Now, a way to do that is to use that slash naming that we had earlier. Now, a cool thing with Figma is that you can rename everything at once. So what we want to do is rename all the icons slash whatever their name is now. So for example, we're going to name all of these icons and then use a slash, and then if you click current name, it adds on the current name to the back of the custom name that I added at the beginning. So everything now is going to be called icons and then whatever they were called earlier. So yeah, now if we zoom in, we can see icons add, and then there's icons search. Okay, now the next step is we want to make all these icons available for us moving forward. So we're going to create components out of these icons, and then we'll be able to reuse them throughout our design. So yeah, if you want to create a component, you'll go up to this 4 diamond icon at the top, and then you'll see you can create multiple components. Do that, create multiple components. And then there you have all your icons available as components right now. Now, if I want to access these icons later in our design, you just click on assets, and then your icon should show up under the icons tab, and you can just drag them in and it'll be the exact same as whatever exists here now. For example, if we create this into a light version, then you can see the color changes in the component in the child of the component. Yeah, so we want this one to be dark, so we're gonna keep this dark. Which reminds me, there is a dark add and a light add, so we're gonna rename this one to add dark. And then we'll create another one. Now, when you're trying to create components, if you copy the component, it'll just copy a child of that component. So what you have to do is you have to break the component or detach the instance. So here you right click and then you can click detach instance. And now you have a detached child, and it can be its own parent now. So we're gonna call this one white. And then this black we're gonna replace with white, and then the white of this add button we're gonna replace with black. And now we have a white. So to create a component, we just click on this again, and there we go. We have the component for that. Okay, so now that we have that, we have to start putting together the design system. So in the design system, I've already identified one component, which is the sidebar. And now when I say sidebar, I'm referring to this sidebar. So we're gonna take this reference image, we're gonna bring it down. So if you click option, you can bring down your reference image. And then once we're here, we need to create an icon button now. What does that mean? So what I like to do is I like to break up the design into different chunks. So I've just made this square. Let me use it to illustrate my point. So we want to cut up this whole sidebar into a few sections. So there's the icon button here. So we have 3 of those in our design or in our component. And then we also have this like personal, click to follow profile thing. But we're gonna start with this. This icon button. So to create that, we go into our assets, and we already have our heart assets. So all we have to do is drop it in. As we can see, this isn't the exact same size or the same. Yeah, it's not the same size as the asset that is being used. We can resize it to see what works or what fits best with what is being used by TikTok. It looks like this is it looks like it's a 44 by 44 pixel shape. So once we know that, we can take it out, and then we type in our follower account. So this font style we already have, 2495K. This font style we already have, it's called Sidebar Nav, or that's what I called it. So yeah, we need to straighten out these, or we need to align these. We need to align these two. We need to align the icon and the text. And now we can change the color. Now Figma has this cool thing where you can select the color from the side. So instead of changing the color of one item and changing the color of the next item, we can select it all. And then if you go to the bottom and click selection colors, you can select both these shapes at the same time. And then I can change both to white at the same time. And I can add the shadow that it has. Okay, now after adding that shadow, we can see that this effect shadow is actually a bit harsh. So what we can do is we can edit this. And maybe it's actually nobler. And the X and Y displacement is only 0.5. No, not that either. Okay, we'll just toy around with it until we get the right X and Y coordinates. Okay, so I changed it to 0.7. I feel like that's much closer to the original. So yeah, now we have that. Now that we have this grouping of an icon and text, we can create a component out of it. So before you create a component, you should put it into a frame first. So or a group. So to turn into a group, press Command G. And then it's best to rename this. So I'm gonna rename it icon text. And then we can turn this into a component by pressing this button. So this component, clicking this will actually turn this shape into a frame instead of a group, but yeah, it's useful for us anyway. So yeah, now that we have this icon text, we can regenerate it. So we can make a child of it. And then, for example, if we want to add in this comment section, we can go to the instance on the side and change the instance. If you double click into the layer, so now you can see we have the icon layer selected. You can click on the instance on the side, and then you can select the icon that you want to use. So in this case, we're going to be using the comment icon. Now this is behaving a bit unexpectedly, so let's go to the master. Okay, so in order for us to be able to reuse this shape in different sizes, we have to change the constraints. So earlier we had it set to left top. We have to change that to scale and scale. Now, you don't always want to do this. Sometimes you want to keep your icon in the shape that it was meant to be kept in, but in this case we want it to scale up, so we're going to change that to scale. So we're going to return to our instance, and as you can see, the icon is back to the way it should be. For some reason this is flipped. If you click Shift H, you can reflip the icon. Okay, so there, now we have it in the right shape. If you're used to using Sketch, usually the icon color will stay and the effects will stay. In Figma, it just doesn't do that, so we have to change the color and we have to add in the effect again. Actually, what we can do is we can remove the effect from each individual item, and then we can add the effect to the whole instance and it'll affect all of them at once. So yeah, that's a workaround. Okay, so now we have the heart, we have the comments. Oh, okay, so yeah, a lot of the times as you design, you'll notice that things are a bit messed up. Here, I've just fixed the alignment of the text and now it's back in the center. And then after that, we also have to create the share icon, so let's do that. So during the editing process, I decided to cut this video up to 3 different parts. So right now you're watching part 1. Make sure you subscribe and come back for part 2 and part 3. Okay, see you next time.